Alright, guys, it's Paul, combat veteran, MMA fighter, YouTuber. Let's check out Escape from Tarkov Raid Episode 5. So, full disclosure, I did play Escape from Tarkov before. I really wanted to be good at it, and it's just so hard to compete against the serious players, man. I just don't have the instincts for it.
It's definitely not yours. Show me your hands. Show me your fucking hands!
Okay, the English dialogue sounds like it might have been written, like, in Russian and then translated.
Слышь, в одиночку тебе все равно отсюда не выбраться. Так что ты либо ебошь, либо пугаем эти деревья.
You're a shitty opponent.
Зато я не расстреливаю гражданское население.
And that's why I'm done. Don't you know the terror group is planning to launch a controlled chaos?
Yeah,
And
this is
Tarkov
definitely
just the beginning.
translated
This
from
case
Russian,
contains
like, not
classified
that well.
documents about all the bioexperiments.
Поэтому я и должен доставить эти улики своему командованию.
Do you believe them? We were supposed to give the case back to terror group, but I have a better plan. We can shoot each other right here, right now, and be done with it. Or we can try to get away from Tarkov and hand off this shit about terror group to independent media. You decide.
So Battlestate Games, it's worth noting, is a Russian production company. So operating in Russia. So I think that may influence the way the Russian government is presented and perhaps the way the U.S. Forces are represented. But if I remember correctly, these two guys are technically from PMCs, private military companies. Okay, they're moving sort of tactically. There's no. It's not that common to look behind you in an area that you've already passed through in somewhere like the woods. Um, and this is because in wooded areas, generally, it's a little harder to sneak up on someone from behind, right? It's especially woods like these that aren't that dense. You're more likely to have someone who would, one person's looking forward, and if you had a second person, they would keep their head on a swivel probably between the flanks. Um, and you wouldn't turn around with the frequency that he is. He's almost spinning in circles. You're much more likely to do so in a way that was like sustainable and more systematic. So you would turn, look, back to front, turn, look, back to front. It would just go a little slower, a little less frantic. Okay, that's really realistic. That's really realistic night vision. I mean, it's probably just filmed with a camera held up to a night vision device, honestly.
Значит так.
3 players. I wonder if that's a Russian military thing?
По-прежнему наблюдаю 3 игроков под вышкой.
The US military, we might call them dismounts. If you're describing an enemy formation, you might say, like, 3 dismounted infantry, small arms, look like AKs.
Вышкой 3 игрока. Эй, Майк, ты уже на месте? Снайперская лёжка всё там же, возле...
Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay, did you see how when he asked for confirmation that his partner was listening, the response was just a click of the mic, and that is old school. It actually dates back to at least the Vietnam War, when the enemy was so close to you that you wouldn't be able to verbally respond. You would just click your mic once for yes, and then click your mic twice for no. So it implies that his battle buddy there is actually very, very close to enemy troops.
Блять, что ты там не понял? Андертрак. Андертрак, Майк.
Прицеп стоит для тебя справа. Справа.
В 10 метрах от тебя.
Блять, да я не знаю, как в ваших ебаных футах. Иди вправо. Просто вправо иди.
Go right, Mike.
Okay, this is also pretty interesting because it's not that common actually in uh, like Call of Duty type video games that sometimes treat uh, special forces folks or that class of soldier as being like perfectly coordinated. This is much more realistic what you would see among two soldiers trying to coordinate, right? It's clear to one observer, but it's not at all clear to the other observer. Yeah, this is, and you have to like talk it through in a way that sometimes drives you nuts. All this is very realistic, actually.
Go right, go right. Там разберешься. Минус наблюдаю. Так, все, Майк, давай вали оттуда.
Горка, Горка, прием. Горка, прием. Горка, на прием.
Чё-то наш Крискайл не отвечает. Не думаю, что у него просто радийка сдохла.
Ah, you see that? Sarcastically referred to one of their partners as that Chris Kyle. That's the famous Navy SEAL sniper. So probably sarcastically referring to this guy who thinks he's probably like a super badass, but he really isn't. Which is funny because those are the allegations that dogged the real Chris Kyle. There were allegations. He claimed that he had like shot looters in New Orleans, which almost certainly never happened, because it would be extremely illegal and also, right? That was like a Chris Kyle move. So it's pretty funny that they are using him as an insult against a wannabe badass friend of theirs.
А если этот вафел нас просек, и наш фокус не удался?
Also, sort of realistic. Yeah. Enemies in front of you, you double tap them if they're on the ground.
Борис, домику. Борис! Где тебя носит? Борис, твою мать, прием. А ты случайно не знаешь, где твой шеф шляется?
Вот твой хабар. Где мой ништячок? Оглупень, где мой ништячок?
Слышь ты, нордический. А может, тебя пора уже сектантом сбагрить? Как думаешь, мы выручим за тебя хотя бы сраный тозик? Ну?
I wonder what the Northman reference is. It's worth noting that he has this chin strap beard that, at least in my experience, tends to denote Chechen or Muslim residents of the Caucasus, which are considered like a separatist province in Russia and sort of their own separate culture a little bit. So I wonder if that's a reference to that, if it's, again, that's sort of lost in translation for us. Is they didn't search the body in a way that we were trained to. Again, yeah. So normally what you would do if you wanted to search a body for intel, or in this case a key card, you would have one person sling their weapon and do the start searching the body, while the other person covers them, both watching the whole field of view, but also watching the body itself. Sometimes those people are faking being dead. It's not unheard of for individuals who know they're going to expire to pull the pin on a grenade and tuck it into their chest, or rig up, have an explosive vest that might go off. And so actually what's not what we were trained to do is actually search. You grab the person by their back and you turn them onto their stomach, or you sort of like reveal what's underneath their chest, and your partner who's observing the search checks for grenades or explosive vests, and if it's clear, then you set them back down and continue your pat down.
309. Ко мне приходил человек, хотел приобрести билет из Таркова на Большую Землю. В обмен на ваш утерянный багаж.
Да-да.
Еще задолго до того, как ваши парни решили устроить жопу в Таркове, наш Минобороны уже по-тихому блокировал округу. Прикинь, морской порт всего за сутки превратили в крепость.
See, there were a lot of people who wanted to test it.
Ну так после эвакуации гражданских и местная жушера тоже решила отсюда свернуть.
Hope we didn't get fucked for the pass out of here.
Yeah, I wonder if this is maybe supposed to capture the strange dialogue that doesn't quite line up. I wonder if that captures the fact that the person who is translated into English is supposed to be speaking like not very good Russian. I know I speak pretty good Portuguese, but I often would phrase things in a very like English Anglo kind of way, when the Portuguese would or the Brazilians would express it differently, and maybe they're trying to capture that. Like there's a Russian way of saying, they really fucked this place up, but like an American would say it, we fucked this place up, but a Russian might say it in some totally different way. They really disarrayed the situation or something, right? So maybe they're trying to capture that weird dynamic where like you're talking a little bit past each other.
Look, Russian, no matter what happens next, I want you to savor the moment.
Savor the moment.
The last time we were together, when we kicked the Nazis' ass.
Okay, see, yeah, he's like, this barely makes any sense, right? He's like, yeah, he like sort of gets the message, but it's like hard to understand. Yeah, I bet that's trying to simulate like a language barrier where one person isn't that proficient.
Ваш пропуск не распознан. Попробуйте еще раз.
Еще раз? Ну, то еще раз. Давай работай. Давай, блядь! Давай! Давай, блядь! Давай работай, сука! Заебись. Все, теперь точно пизда.
Hey, pal. Look.
Ваш пропуск идентифицирован. Оставьте ваше оружие.
Работает.
Проследуйте по
Работает.
Yeah, that all seems realistic too. Technology just being shitty and causing chaos. Yeah, that's another. I mean, I gotta say, in terms of like the realism, there's some parts here that they actually get right, like shitty technology, terrible struggles to communicate when you're both looking at the same situation from different angles. bunch of guys with like rando gear kind of show up to your armed compound.
Сейчас накаркай. Сплюнь, блядь.
Okay, that was pretty realistic.
Вон за теми воротами идет погрузка на корабль.
Seems too easy.
Даже не верится, что скоро будем дома.
Что там за хуйня?
Это, походу, какие-то снайпера-ловушек ложуют.
Oh, that's also interesting. Okay, do you see how they're asking, hey, we need to know the direction of fire? It's actually not that easy to figure out where rounds are coming from, especially if they're coming from a good distance away where the report of the rifle may not be totally clear. I think the volume of sniper fire is not that realistic. What would be more realistic, I think, would be one or two shots fired off very slowly. Because what'll happen is, right, if one person takes sniper fire, even if they don't get hit, everybody gets down, right? And then you've got to figure out where it is and where it's coming from. And if you're a machine gunner, you may not have a field of fire. You may be below cover, below defilade. So that's sort of the power of snipers, is that you don't even necessarily have to hit your target perfectly every time in order to achieve a suppression effect.
О, а откуда у диких минометы?
У диких нет миномета.
Interesting. I actually don't know if the whistle of a mortar is an actual effect or if that's just like a movie thing. Because I've heard that at least artillery rounds are supersonic, so they will hit before you hear them necessarily. But again, I can't say I've been mortared, and I can't say, or I've never been close enough to a mortar strike, rather. I've been in bases that have been mortared. But I've never been close enough to a mortar strike to really get a sense of if it's preceded by a whistle. Yeah, this is actually how a base alert will go, right? They'll sound the alarm. It'll take a minute to register that the fire is incoming. They'll sound an alarm. Most people will take cover. Designated QRF and base defense folks will raise their alert posture, so they'll put on their combat gear, right? Usually you'll have a ready, quick reaction force that will stage their vehicles, ready to repel any assault. Okay, I'll say this. I guess it's not totally unrealistic to see like a friendly fire incident, but I think it's much more likely that the opposite will occur. An internal base defense force will see an enemy, but will not register them right away as being enemy and will hold fire. Than to have someone impulsively shoot unidentified people, especially if those unidentified people don't have weapons. But again, that's the U.S. forces, and maybe in this scenario, they're way less disciplined. I could see definitely undisciplined troops. Their adrenaline's going, they're being attacked, and so they decide, they see two unknown folks, and they sort of panic shoot. Okay, you see that? Now, I think that's probably their QRF. Just like we talked about having a QRF on standby to counter-assault anyone who tries to breach your gate. But maybe I'm misinterpreting, right? I'm seeing the black uniforms. Maybe they're the enemy that have breached. I don't know.
You didn't catch that? That was a really big machine.
Нам по-любому нужно прорваться от те ворота.
Are you nuts? Let's go back to fuck.
Ёбаный 120!
Hurry up! Hurry up! Hurry up! Hurry up! Watch the hole!
Okay, so one thing that wasn't realistic about the way that tactical team moved, I think maybe they're a breaching team, like their enemy, is if you've got incoming mortar, usually you want a little more distance between your personnel. Also, usually you will do mortars to prep for your assault. So you'll hit your target with mortars, and then you'll know the last mortar round, whereas your enemy won't. So you'll know that, 10 mortar rounds in, and you're done, and now you assault, whereas your enemy is waiting for the 11th mortar round, right? So the idea that they would have both their assault team enter and continue to drop mortars is, again, not reflecting a high level of coordination. Seems very possible, totally, again, a realistic military thing, that the mortar teams don't get the memo to cease fire, that the assault team's in position. Yeah, it's tough to say whether something's unrealistic because war is sort of chaotic. I don't know.
C4?
Тогда это совсем уже пиздец какой-то.
No, okay. So the guys in black were probably a counter-assault team. This is probably their breaching element. Okay, charging and yelling is maybe the worst possible strategy here. So when you want to cross an open field, like, you definitely want to do it fast, and there is actually some advantage to doing it en masse, right? It's better than one at a time, but yelling is not a great strategy. And also, here's the thing: if you can cross it with something else that is going to be a little more effective, like a vehicle, motorcycles, or if there's another covered and concealed route that you can take to get you closer so that you don't have to sprint this huge distance, you would do that. Yeah, blowing the wall with explosives and then entering through the breach, that's a classic raid move. Yep. You see the person on comms couldn't understand what was going on. Yeah, also totally realistic. I don't understand. What are you saying? What's actually happening? Right? Again, your adrenaline gets going, and scientifically we know that some of the higher processing centers tend to shut down a little bit when you have that. So your ability to think about, what does higher need to know? How do I explain the situation clearly? You have to really make deliberate effort to think things through and react appropriately and communicate appropriately. Okay, the guys in black are like are maybe trying to exploit the chaos. They are probably like another breaching element that's entered the compound, and the scavs are just a distraction. Okay, I think I see where this is going. I mean, again, this is like tactically sound. I mean, suicide wave attacks are not something the U.S. military trains anyone to do. But you know,
Хуясь. А это теперь такие, а? Хоть придется с нашим пулеметчиком договориться. Shitty idea! Свои! Свои! Да он заебал!
This heavy machine guns! They destroy helicopters! I'm out of here!
Ну, давай попробуй. А что случилось? Что-то ты как-то быстро вернулся.
yeah, people forget that machine guns are loud. They're literally deafening. So, again, very realistic that you would try to talk to someone who's been firing a machine gun on cyclic. Cyclic is the term for just pulling the trigger and letting the trigger run.
Let's only switch for the reload, huh? I really want to live.
Свои!
Hey, that's realistic. A PKM punching through a car? Yeah, most of a car isn't great cover for bullets. Only the engine block is decent cover. And even that, if the rounds are large enough, they can punch through an engine block. So shout out to Tarkov for correcting this this myth that everyone has that any part of a car is great cover. Yeah, it was kind of a grisly death. I don't know if that would happen for a real machine gun. Maybe a Dishka, like a 50 cal anti-aircraft. Maybe that's what that's supposed to be, right? The guy said he's like, those destroy helicopters. Maybe he meant that it's a Dishka.
Все, что ли? Ты просто, блядь, пустой! Свои! Вода мокрая! Не стреляй! Свои! Не стреляй! Вода мокрая! Свои! Свои!
Yeah, this dude's deaf. He can't hear shit.
Вода мокрая!
I wonder if water's wet is like one of those Russian things that doesn't translate quite right. Like, no shit, you know? Like, maybe like, hey asshole, like we're friendly, we're friendly. Hey asshole, fucking wake up, you know? Again, if all your breaching elements are in the perimeter, why are you still dropping mortars? Dude, this is why they have combat helmets. I'm just gonna point this out. I mean, right, going through a combat zone with a soft fleece cap is just a liability.
Я помню, когда мы последний раз были заодно.
See that? Bad search procedures. Nobody was covering them.
This is Black Fox. Jackpot.
это вообще такие?
Буквально несколько часов назад Совбез ООН созвал экстренное совещание из-за очередного обострения в Норвинской области. В минувшие сутки в районе местного морского порта были слышны выстрелы и взрывы артиллерийских мин. Это первый случай применения тяжелого вооружения на блокированных территориях. Совбез ООН выразил на этот счет серьезную озабоченность. Но российские власти в очередной раз заверяют мировое сообщество, что ситуация находится под их полным контролем. Однако командование миротворческих сил ООН, присутствующих в регионе, скептически относится к подобным заверениям Кремля.
Damn. Well, I'll say this, man. There's one thing they got right. People that get killed in combat, they're not the ones that, they're not just generic foot soldiers, dude. They're people you like. And you don't go out like a hero, man. That's how it is. Yeah, mortars kill people. Dumb rounds kill people. Dumb accidents kill people. Alright guys, that does it for Escape from Tarkov Raid Episode 5 Finale. Okay, gotta say, think Battlestate Games really took the time to get a lot of things right. There's a couple of details that were a little weird. A couple things that accurately capture the fact that a real battlefield is pretty chaotic in ways that aren't necessarily dramatic or cool. A couple of things that I thought were a little goofy. But again, it's possible that just the chaos is the chaos, right? Is it realistic that the mortars didn't stop once the breaching element entered? Because that wouldn't be a good tactical decision. Or is it also possible that the mortar teams just got a little over enthusiastic or weren't sure when they needed to stop, right? Both of those things possible. But if you guys enjoyed this content, if you guys enjoyed hearing me talk about the good, bad, and ugly of these sort of video game and video game-oriented films, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to hit like, and until next time, I will catch you guys later.